afternoon to one and all present in this webinar. I am Mukti Thakkar from second year BID SVIT College of Architecture. I extend a cordial welcome to our today's speaker, Mr. Rajiv R. Shah, who will share his knowledge on business valuation and building professional service firm. I also extend a warm welcome to all my fellow attendees. Our college SBIT Vasad has come up with various webinar series in this pandemic situation on varied topics like landscape architecture, conservation, product and furniture design, architecture education GIS. Now we are coming up with new webinar series on insights of real estate and valuation. Today we have Mr. Rajiv Shah with us to enlighten us on business valuation and building professional service firms. I request Professor Sailesh Nair, Principal of College of Architecture, SVIT Vasat, to address the webinar.
On behalf of College of Architecture, SVIT Vasat, let me take this privilege to welcome Sri Rajiv Shah, who will be talking more on insights of real estate, which is a very burning topic, and specifically during this pandemic situation, it is very much important. Also, I welcome all the participants who have come to attend this webinar. So I request Taha to please play our video and let us take Rajiv Shah to our SVIT Vasat. So this was a small glimpse of our college.
Thank you, sir.
Mukti, continue.
Thank you, sir. I would like to introduce Mr. Rajiv Shah. Sir is the Managing Director and CEO of RBSA Advisors. He specializes in mergers and acquisitions, financial valuation, due diligence, fundraising advisory, etc. He has also been involved with some of the major mergers and acquisition engagements in India, as well as the major disinvestments and privatization assignments on behalf of Government of India. He is a mechanical engineer, MBA, CFA, and a qualified valuer from ICAI. He has further specialized in valuation and accredited himself as a Master of Valuation in Plant and Machinery and Master Valuation in Real Estate. He is also an eminent member of Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, UK, and Chartered Valuer and Appraiser. From the Institute of Valuers and Appraisers, from the Institute of Valuers and Appraisers, Singapore. He is registered as an insolvency professional with IBBI and empaneled as an insolvency professional with various banks. He is one of the committee member with International Conference on the Valuation of Plant, Machinery and Equipment, a global forum for international valuation professionals and has been an active speaker for the conference. It is an honor to have you, sir. The platform is all yours.
Yeah,
Thank you.
1 minute, Rajiv. Again, I want to introduce Sailesh sir. Sailesh sir, Rajiv is he is one of the council member like Pilu Modi. He has created his role like Pilu Modi. He is working at the national level, and he is one of the alumni who has tried to deal with the national level as well as international level. He has made
Sir, it's our
various
privilege
council
today now.
rules also for the village board. So it's a proud and privilege for SVIT to listen
Very true, sir.
first time. Yeah.
Thank you, Shailesh bhai. Thank you, Pragnesh bhai, for your very kind, very encouraging words. Sir, and I'll address my colleagues and students now. So first of all, I will request you to, if as many people can keep their videos on, I would prefer to see you in your eyes and hopefully catch your expressions as well. And it is important that whenever you are meeting anyone, it is important to look them in the eye. And it is absolutely fine. I understand all of you are at your home. So it is good to be in t-shirts or banyans or whatever you are wearing. We are perfectly fine with that. Just open up your world so that we can discuss and have a very good conversation. It is important. And again, I have one or two presentations prepared, but I would love to hear from you and answer your questions. So I would wish to make it a dialogue rather than I speaking for 45 minutes, and I don't want a monologue here. I think it will be important that we have a constructive dialogue on how and what we wish to discuss. What I suggest is that I'll maybe give a small presentation for about 20-25 minutes, and then for the next 20 minutes we could possibly answer your questions. So that will make things more interactive. Please feel free to ask any questions. I am not your teacher, so I am not a traditional lecturer. I do not have that kind of skill sets with me. I am a simple practitioner. So naturally, you will permit me for my follies here and there. But it will be fun if we can engage together. So we are talking today not about you all are architects in some sense, real estate professionals in another sense. So I understand that you are very, very good in creativity, aesthetics, many things, design, efficiency. I genuinely know nothing about all that. I'm a finance professional, so I can at the very, very beginning tell you that I have no idea about what you guys do. I have no skill about it, and I cannot teach you anything about architecture. What I can talk to you about is the business of real estate. So I'm here to talk about the business of real estate. Many a times it so happens that very, very good real estate professionals, while they are so much engrossed in the matter of creativity, that they lose the sight of the purse of money, the chain of money. It is important that we do not lose track of the money trail while pursuing our creativity. So the presentation which I have today has two aspects. One obviously is on why valuation or business valuation, or to that an extent finance is important for architects or real estate professionals. The second point is even more business oriented, that once all of you will go out, practice as an architect or serve somewhere, or there will be, how do you build your practice? How do you create any organization? So here are some thoughts that I had. So maybe these are 15 minutes each, and thereafter we can jump into a conversation. We would love to, if I would prefer and love if you can stop me and ask questions. In fact, that will be a real, that will be much better. But I have a small presentation ready, and I'll just brush through it rather than spending a lot of time on that. not know. I will try to share it. Just a second. Just a second. Let me.
So first you have to select the presentation.
Yes, yes.
Present now.
I hope can you see the presentation now?
Yes, sir.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Essentially, what I wish to talk about is what is the importance of the larger finance and business valuation to real estate professionals. As I said, real estate is the largest industry in the world anywhere. It contributes about 7% of India's GDP. New things and new asset classes are emerging like REITs. New concepts are being tested. This is an industry which is generally touches us in one way or other. Majority of people have a maximum of their wealth in real estate. It is an industry which drives many other industries like cement and tiles and steel and so many other industries dependent on it. So many jobs are dependent on it. It is one of the largest industries, not just in India, but anywhere in the world. Why? And this is my common feeling is that there are many professionals who are in real estate, who are civil engineers, architects, who are very, very good at when I consider creativity, aesthetics, design, efficiency, and many other facts. But when it comes to understanding the role of finance in the real estate industry, sometimes I believe they could do by better educating themselves or improving their knowledge. As we go along, and especially for large asset classes, when I say large asset classes, I mean large townships, malls, commercial developments, IT parks. When there is a scale involved in real estate, the element of finance becomes increasingly important, and it becomes the driving force of the value that is created in real estate. I'm not saying that design and architecture is not important. Actually, that is more important, and that will stay a very, very critical and important aspect, perhaps the most important aspects. But as real estate achieves scale, a size, then knowledge of finance and how it impacts real estate becomes increasingly important. So if I take very large assets, if you are talking about say MB Valley or Lavasa or any IT park or any large real estate development, any port development, the essential value while designing is important. How do you manage the finances of that company? How do you manage the finances of development is becoming increasingly important. And here are some points which I've written them down, but I'll take them one by one. I'll share this presentation so that we spend, so there is not much to read, but to hear and understand. So don't take notes, guys. First important point is that while you are developing a project, when you are thinking about a project, you have to first ensure and think about how you are going to finance that project. Where is the money going to come from? Do you have enough supply of money to actually build that project? And if you sell that project, will you be able to recover your money and so is cash flow being managed well or not? Can you run the project seamlessly? Can you maintain and control the cost of capital? Most real estate firms and real estate companies today are borrowing money at atrocious rates. The top tier real estates are good, they can still access. But if you talk about mid-tier developers, they have to borrow money at very, very high rates. So it makes the whole project unviable. The whole point that I'm trying to make is that while you are masters at creativity, please do not lose sight of finance. Do you know how much amount of capital is required in building up a project? So when you are looking at a project, when you are measuring the efficiency, design, scale, please also look at all the other aspects, how much it is going to cost you to build it out. I do not know whether it is part of your core architecture course, but as you become from an architect, a student to architect to a thorough professional, knowledge of finance will be critical. Impact of GST, impact of finance cost. I mean, most people, many people, I will not say most people, but many people just ignore all these things. And sometimes they have to they lose a sight of all, and it leads to a lot of challenges when they are implementing projects. So success of any project is essentially dependent, and I'm not talking about building 3 flats here or 10 flats there. I'm talking about building very large complex assets. It could be a mall, it could be IT park, it could be a large township development, and many other things like that. So once you look at those, when there is scale which comes into question, when there is a size and scale comes into picture, then the scale and size need to be supplemented with the knowledge of finance. And essentially, and as I go along, I'll explain that real estate does not remain a physical asset. It becomes a financial asset. As it grows beyond that, it becomes a financial instrument. So a small house is a physical asset, but a combination of houses, a combination of flat, a township is a business. And if you have a multiple townships, it becomes a financial instrument. If you have one office, it is a physical asset. If you have a building, it becomes a business. But when you have an IT park and multiple IT parks, and if you are able to monetize it, it becomes a financial instrument in the form of a REIT or InvIT. So essentially, a physical asset gets converted into a financial asset. And whenever there is a scale cannot be achieved without finance. That is something which I wanted to impress upon all of you. When you are implementing projects, when you are either designing projects or once you are physically implementing them, it is important that you need to have tighter budgetary control. Don't leave it to others. Essentially, you need to be fully involved. Your creative design should not be devoid of financial realities. You have to have one eye on the budget and the cost aspect of things. Be mindful of economic downturn. It is not just as I said, you have to have knowledge of market. What is market's demand? Is the market peaking out? Is there sufficient demand for the kind of product that you are developing or designing? Many a times it so happens that people or professionals are so full with themselves in terms of they are so lost in their design, their creation, that they lose sight of whether they are able to sell it or monetize it. Are you able to lease it out or sell it, or what I mean to say, unlock value out of it? Essentially, it is important for all of you to be in touch with the market. Again, I can go on in a very detailed way that sources of finance, length of project, what is that your financing has to be aligned to the implementation schedule. You will be implementing projects in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You have to think that long. It is not just the cost of construction, but working capital, engaging people, doing compliances, paying GST, doing marketing, doing post-closure work. So many things have to be looked at. An architect has to, as an architect becomes a broader real estate professionals, he will have to open up his horizons and look at things which are beyond what is taught in traditional curriculum. And you may, as you are going along, you may have to plan and design multiple scenarios. You are implementing a project or implementing a township. Then it would, as it plays out, I mean, as you are developing it, it will need 5 years, 7 years, and you will have to create multiple scenarios so as to be able to adjust yourselves to market upturns and downturns. I mean, you will have to remain flexible to that extent. And a lot of value gets created based on all this. So when I look at valuing a business of real estate, I look at what is beyond what we call a physical asset. We look at the financial aspect of things. A project could be very, very aesthetic. It could be very beautiful, very successful, still not make money for the developer, still not be able to meet its cost. And there are umpteen examples of that. And on the contrary, a project which can be very simple, very subtle, not very fancy, could be financially more rewarding. It could be far more successful when it comes to the value that it creates. So there is a very, very clear distinction between the design and aesthetic aspects of things and financial success. Ideally, you should be able to balance them out. You should aim at both the things. When I look at business value, what I mean to say is that real estate is not just the physical value of the real estate that you are doing, but the underlying value of the business. Sometimes if the project is implemented well, financed well, managed well, it will create far more value than the cost which has been incurred. At the same time, if a project has not been implemented well, it could lead to a lot of value destruction. The developer or the architect, whoever is involved, will be and you as professionals will be known by the success of the projects that you create, the success of your creation. And that successful creation is also dependent on the commercial success of those projects. The whole, the concept, finally the end goal is not just a design related success, it is also the commercial success of the project. And you need to have a fine balance to ensure that you have both the things in place. So I'm not here to make you a business valuation professional, where I can go into boring aspects of how to do business valuation. But I think that is not the subject at this stage. In 45 minutes, probably it will be difficult for anyone to be able to become a business valuation expert. But it is important not to lose sight of the business aspect of things. And as I said, real estate beyond the stage is not just a physical asset, it is a financial asset too. And as it grows in size, it becomes a financial asset. Correct? Most of the large companies, MB Valley, Lavasa, all these IT companies, REITs, they are all financial assets. They are no longer real estate assets. Right now, and we've done a lot of this. We are right now working on JP Infratech, the whole township that they have in Noida, about 18,000 flats. So it is a financial asset. It is no longer a real estate asset. Correct? So it is important not to lose sight of that. And therefore, it is important for all the students and real estate professionals to have a very, very strong knowledge of finance. Before I move forward, I also wanted to maybe educate you about the kind of risks which are involved. So most people say, and I am looking at it from a business angle, when the project is in a very early stage development, you buy land, you want to develop a township there is a regulatory risk whether you will get permission to develop it or not. There is a geographical risk, there is a market risk whether whatever you are creating, whether it will be sold or not. There is a construction risk because whether you get a construction permission, the cost time period of construction. Then there are other kinds of risk. If interest rates go up, real estate market goes down. Cash solvency risk, whether you are able to stay solvent when you are making the project. Leverage, how much debt you are taking. So there are multiple kinds of risks which are involved in a pre-development stage. But as you go along, as you are developing these projects, once you get regulatory clearance, when you are able to go ahead in the project, you will be able to eliminate many kinds of risk. And as the project becomes developed and it is completed, it essentially what is remaining, because the project is already completed, what is remaining is a interest rate risk, leasing risk, credit risk, liquidity risk, which are all essential financial risks. From a physical and regulatory risk to a construction risk to financial risk, as a real estate moves in its life cycle, the nature of risk changes. What residual remains with any real estate project is always a financial risk. So this is something which I wanted to highlight to all of you. And sometimes it becomes essential for all the real estate professionals to understand that finance risk is not diversifiable, it will never go away. It is essential for all the budding real estate professionals, architects to understand. I'm not spending much time on, I'm not here to make you valuation expert, that will take a long, long time. But essentially to give you a flavor of why understanding of finance is important for architects and real estate professionals. At this stage, I would like to maybe request you I have one more small presentation which is about how do we develop professional services. But I think it is important for us to engage into a conversation. And I would love and request you to please, once again, whoever and howsoever, how many of you can maybe start your videos and ask whatever questions that you have. I have one more presentation with me, which is a small presentation, and I'll come to that, but maybe 5-10 minutes in case you want to ask any questions, understand anything about why finance is important and why losing sight of finance is not going to take you there. It is extremely important for us to maybe understand if you have any questions.
Raju, I have one question as a faculty.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have fifth year architecture student. They are participating this webinar today.
Correct, sir.
Final year student. Now they wanted to know regarding if they want to start their small office setup immediately after this thing, how this finance, how they should consider the points for starting their own business. What are the main points you will give as a suggestion?
Sir, I think it is important. First of all, they need to educate themselves better. Many technical professionals, they feel that finance is basically common sense. It is what we do in our normal life. It is important for them to not be afraid of it and venture into it. It is not a scary thing. It is, they can take small courses. I don't expect them to go and learn 2 years of finance. Maybe they can take a 3 months, 6 months refresher courses. There is no need to go to a college for that. There are so many online courses available. But having a better understanding of finance, costing, balance sheet, P&L statement, will not just help them in the projects that they are executing, but managing their own practice also.
Yes.
How to hire people, what to do with your practice. It is essential that they understand the economics of things. Most people, they will learn economics. Life will always teach them economics. But they will be better prepared to learn economics if they have put their mind to it. Sometimes, if they have not been formally introduced to it, chances are that they will learn after committing mistakes. The key is learning before committing mistakes, because whenever you are committing mistakes, either you are committing mistakes on your client's money or your own money. Correct. So idea is to making those mistakes either for your client. If you make mistakes for your client, he will be annoyed and he will not give you work in future. And if you make mistake for your own selves, naturally you are going to lose money. So idea is maybe if they can educate themselves, do a 3 month, 6 month refresher courses. There are many colleges which offer it. They can do it. I don't know if your university should have one or two courses in finance. I don't know if they are already there, but if something like that could be done. Sir.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of online courses also.
Yes, sir. Many online courses are available. And naturally, sir, valuation is one angle where the world of finance meets the world of technical nature. So whether it is real estate, whether it is business, whether it is technical industrial assets, that is a space where the technocrats and the finance professional meet together. And naturally, for them to make any sense, they will have to be possibly oriented towards it. Sir, I have one more small presentation. It will hardly take, but that will be more interesting for students. And that is not education at all. That is only talking about professional practice. And as I promised, I will just maybe take 10 minutes on that, and then we'll have a broader conversation about, I'll just, so here, this is a presentation which is not talking about anything in education. Sir. This is a presentation which talks about professional practice. And I think this is something which should interest all the students. This is about actually what will you do after you come out of college. Now, friends, it is difficult to see the picture when you are inside the frame. So please open up your mind. I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just educating you about life will look in a few years. See, when I talk about architects, a majority, we have a very fragmented profession. We have large number of architects who are differently qualified, some diploma, some degrees, some masters, so many differently qualified people. But the profession at large is largely fragmented. There are hundreds of architects, hundreds of professionals. Correct? Not organized, it is not focused. There are few niche small players, but I have not come across very large organized architecture firms that you see in US, in Europe, and other parts of the world. So in India, the architecture profession is still largely fragmented. I am happy to be corrected if I have many firms which are very large organized. Like in accounting profession, there are big four firms which have like 10,000 people each. In valuation profession, firms are getting organized. We have 300 people. So different kinds of firms get organized. But in architecture profession, there are very limited entry barriers. You need not be an architect also to be practicing architecture. There are very few entry barriers. So any student who is passing out can start practicing architecture. So if I can say, there is no capital, skill, technology, brand or distribution required. There is no capital required. As long as you are able to convince your client, he will hire you. So there is no skill required beyond the stage. Your degree is good enough. The level of technology is all, I mean, you know, most people work on a few softwares. The freshly passed students, they use certain software for design and all. But essentially, they don't focus on a brand. There is no distribution required. So essentially, there are very few entry barriers. This leads to a very fragmented profession. There are hardly few large organized firms which work together and aim at the big things. There are firms and individual practitioners who would aim at doing interior design, small buildings, interiors of small flats, shops, designing small buildings. But are they doing it in a scale and size which can make a difference? Are the budding professionals thinking in terms of business, or they are saying, thinking, I'll get some projects and I learn from there, then I'll start my own practice? Are you thinking differently or thinking in the same lines as the profession is currently structured? Is there a strategic or organized effort in differentiating yourselves or creating your own practice? I do not know answers to these things, but perhaps is there an organizational planning being done by a team of architects, or all of them are competing against each other, trying to win the same business? Are architects coming together and trying to create something which would have scale and size to be able to do something extraordinary? Or they are trying to compete with the same small thing and trying to, is your business or your profession, does it have the scale and size? These are the questions. Are you offering commoditized service? What is the difference in your service? Then you're creating something which is fascinating, which has not been done by anyone else. Are you doing something which is fascinating and has not been done by anyone else? Or is it the same, or there is very little differentiation between what you are doing and what your colleague is doing and what your third colleague is doing and what your senior is doing? So generally, when I look at the profession of architecture, I find that there is a lack of strategic and organized efforts between architecture firms. They are all individual practitioners. Therefore, they fail to make an impact in the business. There is a lack of succession planning. There is a lack of organized planning, by which I mean even good architects, they don't want to hire other good architects because they feel that they will become their competitors. There is so much professional rivalry. They don't want to engage and part with the trade secrets, trade clients. So there is a lack of succession planning. Most architect firms are me and my son or me and my daughter. There is no professionalism in developing and growing it. Therefore, they are not able to achieve any scale. So and therefore it leads to very low level of fees. So this is the characteristic of a fragmented profession. I'm sad to say most profession in India are following this. whether it is profession of architecture, whether it is profession of valuation, or many other professions, or chartered accountancy. So if you want to create something extraordinary, most people compete in this game of efficiency. You are developing efficient solutions to common problems. Are you creating something, it's rocket science? Are you, when you go and sell something to your clients, what is your pitch? Your pitch is your pitch that we are the best in doing this, and we have done this, we have experience in doing this, we have handled 20 such complex projects, and we are best in the business. And therefore, what matters is your judgment, what matters is your experience. People try and sell their services on the basis of their skill, which is efficient solutions to common problems, which leads nothing but more than what we call as faster, better, and cheaper. But faster, better, and cheaper, they never go together. If it is faster and better, it is never going to be cheap. If it is faster and cheaper, it is never going to be better. So most people are not able to come out of this whole efficiency small game. And when you go, I mean, most people, and if I can stop this presentation for a second, most people and most professionals, when they come out of college, what they aim for is the first job that they will get. First of all, they look for an internship somewhere with some good architect. Hopefully they will get an internship. When they're doing that internship, they want to learn a lot of things. But is your peer willing to teach you? Secondly, the key is that they are essentially looking at getting their own projects and starting their own practice. They will start small. The first 1 or 2 years will be very exciting because they will be financially independent. They will certainly win some projects. They will get small projects and they will start working on it. But the question comes, the first, second, third, and fourth year will be very exciting because it will be financially rewarding. You will, from a student, become and mature into a professional, and you will be very happy about it. The problem starts after the 5th year, when you realize that you are not able to achieve the scale. You are not able to break the barriers. You are not able to do something which is truly remarkable. You are not able to do something which is truly different. So it is important that if you have to be able to change the game, as India is developing, the whole game is changing in favor of quality, competence, scale, reputation, and brand. If you are a great architect, are you known like that? People will come to Hafiz Contractor because of his brand and reputation. But trust me, there is a lot of effort which goes in building it. How many of you are thinking like that? Are you thinking in terms of just creating your own small practice? Or are you creating an institution which will have quality, competence, scale, reputation, and brand? Unless you think like this, you will not be able to make a lot of difference in the profession. You will be financially successful. You will be financially rewarded also. But you will not be able to change the game. I wanted to be very candid with you. As India is growing, foreign architecture firms are coming in. If there is any great project, the developer will say, we have an architect from Singapore, we have an architect from London, we have an architect from USA. Why not architects from India? What are you guys doing? Why can't you organize themselves and give them a run for the money? What is happening to our good quality architects? I mean, they are more focused on competing amongst themselves rather than creating something worthwhile, which is bigger than all of them put together. I can tell you that forces of consolidation are very, very strong. The high fee, good quality business will always go to good quality, reputed firms. High fee, good quality business will always go to good quality firms, firms with competence of all kinds, firms with scale, firms with reputation and brand. The question is, are you wanting to build such a firm, or you are happy with a suboptimal outcome? Most of the architecture firms are subscale, they are below the scale, and naturally their area of operations is also limited. Their area of competence, they cannot be claiming that they have 200 architects working for them. it is important that you focus on quality, competence, scale, reputation, building a brand, and be a force of consolidation rather than be driven by it. You should drive it. Correct? So these are my thoughts. So there are a lot of opportunity for all the professionals. I always say the world is calling you, but where are you? It is not that the profession does not have opportunities. Have you identified your niche? It is important for you to identify your niche and focus on this. Now people say, how do I do it? So you need to be scaling your organizational processes. Work with each other, not try to compete with each other. Most architects, more professionals, and not about architects, every professional. They are individually brilliant, but collectively hopeless. My teacher used to say that. They are all individually brilliant, but somehow they cannot work together. Somehow they cannot come together and try to create something which is bigger than themselves. And once you create something which is bigger than yourselves, then only you will have something to show for. So after that 5th, 6th, 7th year, you will not have frustration setting in, but more exciting work ahead of you. Adopt the best management practices, have IT systems, HR practices, try to hire very best, train your people, scale your brand and reputation, write in journals, do all these conferences, go and publish your research, go and publish your whatever you are trying to create. So be a visible expert. A visible expert is always valued more than an invisible expert. So, and people have to work to stay visible. Your research, your product, your work, everything has to be seen in the market. If the market sees it, then only they will recognize it. You will have to scale yourself. You have to be your own brand. And if you want to become your own brand, you have to be a force of good. You have to be at the cutting edge of knowledge and quality. Be the best in business. Chase difficult assignments, chase good names. If it's a very complex assignment, even if it doesn't earn money, please do it. Don't try to, and a lot of things happen in profession, I'm aware of that. Don't try to cut corners, don't try to quote low and then try to make money in other ways. Be very, very honest with your client, because client is smarter than you. He will definitely catch you. He may not say so, but he's definitely going to catch you. Scale is critical. If you do not achieve scales, it is going to be difficult. Every profession is going through what we call as relentless commoditization. Whatever new comes in today gets copied by everyone else in 6 months' time or 3 months' time. You need to have, in order to address this relentless commoditization, you need to differentiate yourself relentlessly. You need to come up with something new every time. Today, after 5 years, artificial intelligence will do better design than humans. Are you prepared for that? You need to do something which is really path-breaking. For that, you have to organize yourself and think bigger. There is no profit. I mean, obviously you will survive, but do you want to survive in a timid way or you have to survive in a lionistic way? That is something that you have to decide. So there are, consolidation is happening. It is for you to decide where you want to do. If you are able to reach a scale and size, new opportunities will open for you, not just in India, but outside India. We as a firm started in Gujarat, started in Jaipur. In last 5 years, we have worked in 30 countries. There is no limit to where you can go. So once you diversify into higher skill areas with higher entry barriers, there are 1 million architects who can do interior designing of a flat. But there are only 5 people who can design and create a masterpiece. You want to be amongst those 5? So if you are amongst those 5, you can command your price. People will come to you rather than you have to go to people. So please, these are my thoughts. You need to, if there is a book, Discipline of Market Leaders, it is available on Amazon, you should read it. If you want to become a market leader, you choose your customers, narrow your focus, and you can then dominate your market. You have to do something extraordinary. And this is what I wanted to say. And I can go on and on for hours together on this, but I think I'll leave this and I'll open everything to questions and observations and thoughts for all of you to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. This was really very informative and inspiring for all of us. Now the webinar is open for a round of question and answer. Either type in the chat box or unmute yourself and voice your concern.
Yes, and maybe if you have any thoughts or any questions, Shailesh Bhai or anyone would be happy to maybe address them, or any observations. Maybe you don't agree to whatever I said. That is also fine, sir. So I'm happy to get in a chat and understand, discuss more.
Sir, after your speech, everybody is zapped. They don't know what to ask.
Yes, sir, what happens? What happens? Sir, people face what we call we go for symmetric competition. You have to look at symmetry. Naturally, there are 5,000 architects ahead of you. Yeah, you are behind them. You have to do something extraordinary. You have to think differently. If you want to bypass all of them, they are still doing the old same old stuff. If you 5 of you come together and create something extraordinary, but for that you will have to pool your energies. You can do something extraordinary. If you follow the same thing, you are behind the curve. You cannot replace them.
Yeah, you have to make your mindset also.
Sir, we have a question
Yes.
from one of the attendees, Ashish Solanki. He's asking, sir, how we will mark place in this competition market.
You cannot compete them by competing with them, because everyone is so well placed. You are students here. You will have to start focusing on certain aspects. You cannot be trying to do everything. You pick up one or few things and then focus on them. Try to be the best in those. I mean, it could be designing temples, it could be designing theaters, it could be designing something very, very critical. You could be the best in township design. You could be doing something green buildings or something which is, I do not know. That is something for you to figure out. You could be the very best in that chosen field, and then you will be started to know for that. You could be designing maybe farmhouses. I do not know, but something that you will have to do. And you will have to be focused on that. You have to get out of this asymmetry of competition. There are firms ahead of you, there are professionals ahead of you. You have to be better than them. You will have to come together. Initial few projects, you will have to invest. People will not give you work like that. You will have to invest your time and energy, probably take cost below projects, below your cost. But once you give exemplary service, once you delight your client, you do the very best. You only win clients. If you do the very best work that you can, then people would love you and they'll call for you. Don't try to compromise quality. Quality is the only differentiator in a creative work. Quality is the only differentiator. Consider yourself as an artist. If you sing well and if your audience likes you, then only they are going to come to you. No matter if you charge low, no one is going to come to you. If you delight them with your voice and delight them with your work, then only people are going to come to you.
Yes, sir. If anyone else has any questions, please write in the chat box or unmute yourself and sir, there is an appreciation from Avni Thakkar. Reality of market, nicely explained practical scenario of market.
Thank you very much. But I think, see, some of my thoughts, I am a practitioner, so I cannot teach you anything in terms of your profession. I'm so much about architecture. I can tell you is reality of what happens in what it takes. And why do I ask you to open up your videos? The reason is you need to engage with your clients, your lecturers, your people with passion. Unless you are able to look at people in their eyes and talk to them, look into their eyes and see their soul, you will not be able to make a difference. Whether you are making a difference talking to your lecturers, your students, or anyone else, it is important to bring that passion in whatever you want to do. And once you display that passion, I'm sure the world will take care of it itself.
Yes, sir. I'd like Ashwin sir to say something, some words on.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Ashwin.
So I just wanted to ask about the ethics because ethics play a great role, and many times we see that people forget the ethics and they have conquered the market. What is your say, sir?
Sir, I think, sir, people who have ethics will go longer, and they will be, so people who will be slightly less ethical will benefited in the first part of their race. But sir, trust me, your client is smarter than you. So most architects take a cut from the contractor, from material supplier, from this and that. And I'm being very candid with you here. I don't want to be sugar coated here. Most, and I say there are few who don't, and they are very good, knowledgeable people. I like them. But do you think that client does not know that? The person who is paying you, he's building a house worth 2-5 crores. Does he not know you? I mean, is he really not be smarter than you? He's engaging you. So people eventually, once he finds out, he will have, जिसको हम हिंदी में कहते हैं, उसका मन खिन्न हो जाएगा. He'll feel bad about it. You charge whatever you have to charge. You say that this is my charge because I don't charge any commission. You say that I'm going to charge 3 times. The reason I'm charging 3 times because I do not take any hanky-panky thing. And then client will trust you. And then he will have a personal bonding with you, personal connect with you. Most people don't understand it here. Today, ethics are at a premium. ईमानदारी महंगी है, बेईमानी बड़ी सस्ती है आज के ज़माने में. Because there are more people who are, it is simple supply and demand situation. There are very few people who are honest. There are more number of people who are dishonest. So dishonesty is being sold at pretense. Honesty goes for a premium. Just because you are honest, you can charge premium to your clients. And you have to make a show of that. You have to tell your clients. And it is not just saying it. You have to display it. It should be visible in your conduct. मैं कह रहा हूँ इसलिए मैं honest हूँ. People should be able to test it. Right? Otherwise, it will be even worse. You say something else and your conduct is something else. And that is the worst thing. That will not take you long. Maybe you will win some work and थोड़ा बहुत आप पैसा कमा लेंगे. But will you be able to make a difference here? People are dishonest amongst their partners. And in this profession, half the things happen in cash. Half the things happen in cash. Don't do all this. To create something, you have to be doing things in the right way. You have to be honest, not to your clients. You have to be honest to your partners, your colleagues, your juniors. So don't market, and people are much smarter than what you realize. Most people who are dishonest feel that my dishonesty will not be known to anyone else. They have a fallacy. Market and people are much smarter than what we give them credit for. That's my take. Maybe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you.
Sanjeev sir, we'd like to hear what you have to say as well. Sir, your mic is
You are asking me to ask something to Rajiv sir?
Sanjeev sir, Sanjeev sir.
Yes,
आपका ये
sir.
आवाज
Yes, sir. You.
I am also Sanjeev. So you are pointing to me, or is
Yes,
there
sir.
some other
You.
person?
No, sir. You only. Your
Okay.
thoughts
सर
and
आपका
thoughts.
आवाज
Rajiv sir, I have a very specific question. The students and the practitioner who are practicing in this particular scenario of the professional practice, the moment arise in their life when there is always a peer pressure for a student to perform something, and he is not able to perform, and he get depressed in the starting phase of the life, and it occurs to many of the person. And during that phase, when he starts his practice, during this initial stage of the life, you have a person who is growing and who wants to get married also. He has a partner also. He has so many liabilities to take care of all those things. And taking care of all this peer pressure, how does he balance his professional life with his personal life?
So the first 5 years are going to be very challenging. So from a college life, a carefree, wonderful life, you are thrown into what we call thrown amongst the wolves. There, you will be thrown amongst the wolves. Your competition will be wolves. So they will have to be mentally prepared. But only thing, as I said, if they are able to stay the course, I mean, it is there is no right answer. How everyone is different, and they will have to find their own balance. It depends on their own value system. What is that they want to achieve? What is that gives them satisfaction? What is that they are aiming at in life? And after a good day's work, what is that they are aiming at? Are they so, sir? I think there are easy ways out. And I always, my teacher used to tell me, following the path of least resistance is what makes river and man crooked. So if you want to follow the path of least resistance, you will eventually become crooked as rivers become crooked. Because you try to find easy answers among things. Correct? Once you start finding easy answers, it starts compromising your integrity. And after 5 years, you are find that you are unrecognizably different. The small digressions that you start, even after coming out, कि थोड़ा सा ये कर लेते हैं, थोड़ा सा वो कर लेते हैं, किसी को पता नहीं चलेगा, यहाँ खा लेते हैं, वो कर लेते हैं, इधर चुरा लेते हैं. So वो शुरुआत छोटी चोरी से होती है. 5 साल बाद में पता चलता है कि सारी बड़ी चोरी हो गई है. तो उन लोगों को बाद में पता चलता है कि there is no coming back out of it. And the market starts realizing you, sir, market is supreme. It is our collective wisdom. It is the collective wisdom of everyone. So market knows who is smart, market knows who is competent, market knows for which work with the right professional. If they want to achieve something, if there is so you will get automatically stratified in that. So as I said, market is very brutal to that extent. It sees more than what you see. It sees your ethics, it sees your competence, it sees your credibility. So people who start compromising and over a period of time, they realize that they have lost the biggest opportunity in their life. They could have done something extraordinary with their skill. So this is my take, but I think it is a very individualistic question.
Basically, I just wanted to talk about, the real problem with the students are going to face. So, for example, he is going to serve at some particular company, and we talked about the growth of the architects, and we talked about they should go to the global platform and they should take the global job, they should take the people together. But in the current market scenario, nobody quotes as per the COA. Everybody is undercutting and everybody is trying to get the job. And what they pay to the architects, what they have studied and what the times they have spent, they are going to pay them peanuts. So when the moment they are going to get them peanuts, they are always going to jump from one place to another place, because in the initial state, they have a lot of other responsibility to take care. So instead of gaining proper knowledge, the problem is that they are just going to find some few bucks who is going to pay them more, and they're going to jump from one place to another place. And the situation arises that in that initial phase of the life of an architect, there are so much turbulence which are going to come into their way, and there are a lot of fallouts. So I would just seek your viewpoint. How do they get out of this? This is just a general question. I am aware about many things of the market, but just to see that, your view can be passed on to the student in a better way, I just wanted to ask you this question, sir.
Sir, I agree with you, sir. Once there are students, what we call their cows for slaughter, their calves for slaughter.
Yeah.
I'm being candid with you, sir, because they have all the weaknesses. They want to make a life, they want to learn something, they have a pressure to earn, they have a pressure to find a life partner, they have a pressure to support their life partner. The first
Yes,
thing,
true.
they are going to be challenging. But my suggestion would be try to work for the best mentors. Don't work for crooked bosses. Try to find a good mentor who is ethically right and who is very, very competent. But there are not many people like that. Maybe 10%, 20% of people like that who are ethically right and
True.
they're very, very competent. So if you find a great boss, he will teach you more than what you learn in 5 years of architecture. How to conduct yourself, how to deal with your clients, how to price yourselves. How do you pitch for clients? What is that you want to focus on? What is your calling in life is first determined in the first 4 or 5 years of your profession. If your calling in life has to be more than just making money, if it is making money, it is a vicious downward circle. If you create something, you will make money for 50 years. That is, find someone who can mentor you. Try to find a senior professional who is good, who has a great reputation, great work, who will, जो आपको तराश सके. आप तो you are malleable, you are cows for, I mean you are calves, बच्चे हैं सब लोग. तो आपको तराश सके to make you a true professional. For a student to become a true professional, he has to go through that 3-4 years of pain.
Yeah.
And during that time, he has to hold his ground. He should not start compromising on his integrity. Integrity finally is everything. You should have the confidence to look it in your client's eyes and demand what you deserve. And if your client feels that, yes, this is the person I want, he feels that you are competent, then he'll pay you any price that you want. There is no fee that a professional can charge, provided the client wants it. It is different between push and pull. When we create professional firms, we want to have a pull effect. People come to us because we are the best in business, not because we are selling something cheap. I tell about us. We are doing Air India valuation, we are doing Jet Airways valuation. We do, out of the top 20 companies in India, we do 15 of them. So people come to us because we want to create that pull effect. We cannot push our way. And for that creating, you need to do all the things. You have to create scale. People should recognize you for your skill and for your goodness. They should feel that they are good people. They will give me good advice. They will give me good design. And they will be my partner. They will not try to skim me and out of corruption. If they have trust in you, then you have nothing to worry about.
True. Thank you. I think this should be good for the students to understand this part. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, sir, I am a passionate speaker, and I speak my mind, so I don't want to do honey-coated theoretical conversation. I can do that a lot, but I think that will not serve my students well.
Absolutely. That is true, sir.
Rajiv.
Pragnesh bhai.
Yeah, Sanjeev sir is again passionate professional and teacher also. He was teaching in Vasat since so many years. So he was teaching professional practice in various colleges and project management. He has his own firm in Baroda, and all the students are very, very, very eager to listen to Sanjeev sir also. Today we are fortunate to have Rajiv sir and Sanjeev sir together somehow. Dialogue between the two professional masters in their own work. So we are always honored to have you today together.
Sir, I am honored and I bow down with all my humility, and thank you so much, sir, for addressing me.
But Sanjeev sir, we consider you as a part of SVIT only.
I also consider as a part of SVIT, sir. I am also.
Our Rajiv sir is also a part of us.
Yeah.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Do we have any more questions from the attendees or any professors?
I think Rajiv sir's presentation was very clear,
Yeah.
the point. So I don't think anybody is having a lot of questions also. So most of the doubts are cleared.
Yeah.
Thanks, Professor Pragnesh Sir, to deliver the formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to give vote of thanks to today's expert, Mr. Rajiv Shah, for his sharing his wide knowledge to all of us. See, his third part was very interesting considering the finance part, because the first part was relating to economics and law, then town planning and financing part was so interesting that when we consider part 1, part 2 and part 3, it is all about the business, it is all about the economics, it is all about the integration of various subjects along with the architecture. So it was a very good session, I will say, end up by Rajiv Shah. It was very interesting to all of us with his precise noting and the interactions, the way it was shared by Rajiv. I would like to thanks to our principal, Professor Shailesh Nair, sir, for the constant encouragement and the support to all of us for the webinar and the other activities also. Today's webinar was 30th in number and it was the 12th series for SVIT Vasar. I would like to thank to our Nest Trust and our chairman Sri Bhaskar Bhai for the constant support for such type of activities. I would like to thank to all my colleagues, faculties and teaching and non-teaching staff along with the other supporting members for successful webinars. Also thankful to all the participants uh, in the today's webinar. Lastly, I would like to thanks to our webinar team, younger webinar team. First time they have created a different type of identity in SVIT Vasar. They are Assistant Professor Taha Padrawala, constantly working and managing and supporting to all the faculties and all the people in SVIT. Then again, the Nayak, Garbit Nayak for their designing and composition for webinars also, and Ruturaj. So, and lastly, I will thanks to the Mukti for the wonderful emoji. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Rajiv, again. It was a wonderful.
Sir, I am very
Yeah,
Pragnesh sir,
yeah,
Pragnesh sir, sir, we are very thankful that we could see Sanjeev sir in the
yeah,
webinar. We were
yeah.
very happy to see Sanjeev Shah sir also.
Yes, true. See, it is therefore it was surprise for us that lastly when finance will come, Sanjeev sir will suddenly they appeared in our webinar, and when Rajiv was dialoguing finance
Yes,
part, it was a fun for all of us. So I think so we enjoyed like a professor practice subject, madam. See, that is the
yes.
fun for the student also. Yeah.
संजीव सर अभी टाइम हो गया एसवीआईटी का विजिट मार लो.
Yeah.
But I will be very, very delighted if some of our good quality architects create something very worthwhile, something which we all will be proud of. And we need 10 architect firms who will do India proud.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to get a Firang advising us here. We have all the knowledge that we want. But
Very
provide
true.
people to do it. And I mean, that's what I would want to see. Maybe some of them, and I would gladly give them my farmhouse construction work.
Okay.
Great, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.